If you're in a leadership role right now, chances are you're feeling it, that pressure to keep up with AI. To be honest, I find myself overwhelmed and I work in the tech space. It's like every conversation feels like it's circling back to AI, and we're all being pushed as leaders to rethink how our organizations operate. In fact, in the next 5 years, 39% of the skills that we use today will look completely different. So, how do we lead through this kind of shift? How do we figure out where AI actually fits and what's worth acting on first? Welcome to AI Assessment and Planning. I'm Tyler with Valere, and I'll tell you more about us in a bit. But during our time together, you're going to learn how to build a full action plan for AI adoption that fits your organization. On the screen is your agenda along with the time codes in case you want to reference a certain section. An AI assessment means taking stock. It's carefully going around your organization and gathering info about all the different parts that AI can improve. Today is about how you do that inventory the right way. I'm going to walk you through the exact framework we use, and once you follow that framework, you'll be writing a document which is an AI transformation playbook. That's what we call it. You might call it whatever you'd like, but it's a written strategy, an action plan for how you're going to move forward with AI. And we're going to end our session today by walking you through actual pages from one of those sample playbooks so you can see exactly how to produce this document. I want to quickly introduce who we are at Valere. We were named the top artificial intelligence company by Clutch, and we are grateful for that. But what matters more to us is what we build. Our motto is build something meaningful, because that is what this work is all about. It does not matter if we are helping somebody build a custom app or we're guiding them through a transformation like we're going to do today. We want you to create something that you can point back to and say, this made us better at what we do. Now let's talk about why AI assessments matter. What I see is a lot of leaders that are so eager to get started with AI that they immediately look outward. They're searching for some examples or a template or some kind of a rule book to follow. Maybe it's what their competitor is trying or what somebody recommended on a podcast or something. And there's nothing wrong with looking at what everybody else is recommending. It's a good starting point to get ideas and inspiration externally. But your best chance at success will always come from examining your unique situation first. It starts by looking inward. I want you to think of your entire industry like a big garden. Every plant in that garden has different needs, different soil, different sunlight, different amounts of water. Some of them are tall and strong. Maybe they've got bigger budgets. Others are small and scrappy. They're running on tiny teams. Your organization has its own climate and your needs are unique. And so the only way that you're going to know where AI makes sense for you, you have to do an assessment. You've got projects on your desk and deadlines on your calendar, donors to meet with, grants to write, budgets to balance, campaigns to plan, and a team that's probably already stretched thin. So today we're bringing it back to that, the work that is already right in front of you. That is what you need to study. And we're going to show you how to assess it, how to talk with your people, gather insights about how your teams work, and identify which internal routines are draining time instead of driving the mission forward. Here's what's happening when AI transformation is done well. 3 out of 4 companies who've made the leap into generative AI and automation are already reporting that these investments are hitting or exceeding expectations. What does that mean practically? Well, businesses integrating AI are enjoying revenue growth of between 3 and 15% directly tied to these initiatives. Plus, it's not just about making money, it's about keeping your customers happy. Businesses using AI in customer service report a jump in satisfaction scores by around 20%. So clearly, AI is no longer just a nice to have, it's becoming essential. Chances are you've got someone on your team, or maybe it's even you, who is feeling some kind of resistance or pushback. Let me share a quick story to put that in perspective. Change has always been hard. Throughout history, we had these three times where there were these major technological leaps. These three things fundamentally changed our world, and it happened really, really fast. So in the 1700s, when the steam engine came around, it was one of the things that kick-started the Industrial Revolution. It helped factories move away from water sources, and now they could go to these urban areas. So businesses, all of a sudden, they started to scale up like never before. And then in the 1800s, electricity comes around. Once again, it disrupts everything. It disrupts the status quo. Factories now could extend their working hours until after dark, which meant more production and more profits. And then around 1910, the invention of the assembly line takes things up a notch even more. You remember the story from history class. We now have mass production, lower cost, more scale. It was massive success. But what we don't talk about is that when these advancements were new, they were met with resistance. People were threatened that they would lose their jobs. They were skeptical that these things were very dangerous. And now here we are again with AI. It's the next tool in that same story. And so the resistance that we feel today is totally normal because it's part of a long tradition of that initial pushback during the messy phase at the beginning. But eventually comes acceptance and new opportunities. And so my point is, entire industries had to stop and reassess and figure out how to adapt. And that's exactly what we're doing quite well. And we have found a process that works, which is what we call AI assessment and planning. So I'm going to teach you the framework we developed, but real quick though, implementation looks different for everybody. You're going to find yourself in one of three categories. And luckily, this framework is so flexible that it's going to match whichever your situation is. Situation one is you're experimenting with just everyday tools. Things like ChatGPT, Copilot, Zapier, just low cost, low code tools. And so for you, implementation means you want to have a unified plan to make these things work across your teams. Situation two is for those who need something more advanced. So this is for organizations who have an enterprise level software that they need, and that software is already designed for you. These are usually things that are industry specific. So let me give you a couple examples. A hospital might be implementing something like Epic, which is an AI-enhanced patient care and health record system. Or somebody in the retail space might be using Amazon AWS to better understand what their customers actually want. So your implementation means that you want to configure that platform, make sure that it's integrated into your current operations. Situation three, you have highly specific needs, but there's not an existing software out there yet. So your implementation means you're going to build something completely custom from the ground up. These are all different forms of implementation, but it doesn't matter which category. The AI assessment and planning framework I'm about to show you will suit you just fine. So the four pillars that we will assess are people, process, technology, and data. Now, some organizations outsource this work. They partner with external AI agencies to come in and study these four things. But if you want to take on this work yourself, today I'm going to walk you through exactly how we approach it. So now you'll have a model to follow. First is people. Before you do any kind of implementation, you listen. You listen first because you have to start by understanding your people, the ones who do the work every day. Let's say you are a law firm and one of the paralegals, let's call her Linda. Linda is spending 4 to 5 hours a week drafting boilerplate legal language for contracts and memos. If we interviewed her, she would probably say, I just want to help clients, not type the same stuff all day. That's a pain point that we would flag. To understand people, start with interviews. Sit down with staff across the organization to find out what's slowing each one of them down. And it is incredible how much clarity comes just from asking the right few questions. Over time, we've become experts at what to listen for and what follow-up questions to ask. But I want to give you a great question that you can start with, which is, what is taking up your time? What tasks do you do regularly that make you think, There's got to be a better way to do this. Now, interviews are qualitative. They're going to give you stories and help you understand the why behind someone's frustration, but the interview is subjective, and every one of them is going to be different. So you need surveys as well. Surveys are quantitative. You get to control the questions and answer choices that you ask, so you're going to collect consistent data across the board. So start by listening to your people. They're going to tell you where AI can help, but only if you slow down and ask. Next, we look at process. So what is the actual flow of work? What is being duplicated? Where are things falling through? Say that you're in manufacturing, a packaging plant, and one of your floor supervisors, we'll call him Trevor, is manually inspecting product quality. He walks down the line and he's checking each of the labels by just eyeballing them. Now that works, mostly. But on long shifts, whenever he's tired, things get missed. And by the time an issue is caught, it's already made it into dozens of shipments. So what happens? Returns start to go up, customer trust goes down. That is a process issue. And so you have to drill down to the specific workflow gaps that you might not have even noticed before. And you want to dig until you can name exactly where the process is breaking. And you can measure, even if it's just a guess, how much time, effort, and money each issue is costing you. That's going to go in your plan. Third, we look at tools, or what's often called your tech stack. So obviously that is the software that you're using day to day. Maybe it's also your data systems, your websites, and the tools that staff are using behind the scenes, and whether those tools talk to each other. You know, a lot of times we find different departments that are using different platforms in silos, and neither side knows what the other is doing. So, for example, at a health clinic, their nurse manager, we're going to call her Carla, she is still building staff schedules using Excel and email. No scheduling software, no automation. And so every time somebody calls out or swaps shifts, Carla has to go in and rebuild the whole thing from scratch. It works, but barely. That is a tech gap, okay? And it's costing her like 12 hours a week. And so once you find that out, you would flag it and you would write it down. So assessing your technology is asking, what tools do we have? Do they work together? Can they scale? And do they make people's jobs easier or harder? Also, what features are missing from these tools that we actually need? Finally, we take a look at data. What are you tracking? Where does it live? And can it actually help you make decisions? So for example, at a regional bank, one of their client advisors, let's call her Naomi, she's a financial advisor, and she's trying to offer some personalized advice, but all of her client data lives in different systems. So she's got investment history over here and life events over there, and her meeting notes are buried in emails. So every time she preps for a call, she has to piece the whole picture together manually. That is a data problem. She has what she needs, but she can't access it in a usable way. AI is only as smart as the data you feed it. If your data's scattered, then your insights are going to be too. So those are our 4 pillars: people, process, technology, and data. Now that you've gathered all this valuable info, the next step is you want to take everything that you learned and you're going to write a document. Now you can call this whatever you'd like: a digital strategy, an action plan. We call ours an AI transformation playbook. Think of this document as your roadmap forward. So let's look at an example. I'm going to share some sections from a sample playbook that we did for a university, because I want you to see how these ideas might look whenever you lay them out on the page. Just like with any good strategy document, you always start by clearly stating the issues that you're trying to solve. So you need your challenges first. So here's what we uncovered at this university. Number 1, their student success team, of course, they track struggling students, but the advisors are doing that by hand. So they spend hours each day sifting through spreadsheets and notes to try to figure out who's falling behind. They usually can't respond until after a problem has already surfaced. So that's a real opportunity to automate this so that students who could have been helped earlier, they don't end up slipping through the cracks. Number 2 is their marketing team wants to know how their different campaigns are performing. But right now, they're doing most of this manually. combing through this data by hand. So it's slowing them down, it's preventing them from quickly adjusting their strategies. What if they could automate this analysis? Now, also in marketing is number 3. That team also wants to highlight authentic stories about their students and alumni. But currently, they're doing this manually as well. One by one, they're telling the stories. So it's slow. It's a manual process that makes it difficult for them to consistently go out and share those personalized stories across multiple channels. And so that limits how often they can connect with their audience. Number 4, the admissions department, they're fielding, as you can imagine, tons of questions from prospective students every day. And currently, they respond to each one of those questions manually. So many of these questions are routine and repetitive, but the response times are dragging on for hours or even days sometimes. And so slow responses can frustrate applicants. It can ultimately impact enrollment. And number 5 is admissions also spends a lot of time manually researching new student demographics and regions to target when they're trying to figure out who would be interested in their programs. So it's a manual approach. It slows down their outreach. And if they could automate some of this, it would help them to reach more of the right students faster. All right, so we've got our challenges, and next we move on to use cases. So now you want to take each of those challenges and turn it into a use case where AI can help. Let's look at some examples. So use case number 1 was that we recommended an AI-powered early warning system. What's cool about this one is, again, think back to that challenge where they were having to do all those manual tracking of student data. So this system would immediately spot students who might need extra support and let the advisors know right away. So instead of them having to wait until a problem pops up, advisors can step in early and give students the help that they need. Use case number 2, for that challenge, we're proposing a predictive campaign analytics dashboard. So basically, it's a smart tool that's going to predict which of their marketing channels and what messages are likely to work best. Now, this is great because instantly it's taking away some of that guesswork that the marketing team was doing, and they can now quickly see exactly where they need to focus their time. Use case number 3 is we introduce an AI-powered storytelling amplifier. So this one automatically helps the university to produce more personal and meaningful stories about their students and alumni. Instead of the marketing team having to go in and write every single story from scratch, the tool uses generative AI to give them a strong starting point. So this is going to help them share more stories faster and connect better with their community. So notice how each of these use cases is tied back to one of those main organizational challenges. Use case number 4, we recommended an AI chatbot for managing all those inquiries. So it'll answer some of the common admission questions immediately, no matter what time of day or night, anytime, it's going to answer them. So this frees up that admissions team so they can spend more of their time actually connecting with students who have specific questions. And then use case number 5 is we suggested what we're calling an AI-driven opportunity showcase. So this tool automatically finds and targets new groups of students who might be really interested in this university's programs. It's a faster way for admissions to get in front of the right people without having to spend hours manually researching who they should talk to next. All right, the next section that you want in your AI transformation playbook is a prioritization map. You're not going to implement all of these solutions at one time. In many cases, that's not realistic. And so the question becomes, where do we start? So this is what we call an ROI map or a prioritization map. And the way that it works is along the bottom, you have a level of effort scale. So this is how much time and money and complexity it's going to take you to implement. Along the side is your ROI, your return on investment. So how much value does it create? This could maybe be in hours that it saves or dollars, or it could be directly something that supports your mission. The goal is you want to find your sweet spot, which is in that top right corner. High impact, low effort. That's where we usually start. So for the university, you can see how we took all those use cases and we plotted them on this map. Now, we did a whole bunch of calculations and research to get to this point, But now when we look at this map, we can see some of them, like the early warning system, it offers immediate value and it's relatively easy to implement. But others, like the opportunity showcase, might be a bit more complicated. And who knows, maybe that one is better suited for phase 2 or 3. But this visual gives your leadership team clarity on how they're going to prioritize these use cases. So now that we've done our assessment, we have identified our challenges and we've turned each one into a use case. We've kind of kicked the tires to try to understand how we might prioritize those different use cases. Now we get into the meat of our document, which is your implementation roadmap. Now, me personally, I love writing action plans and strategy documents, and my instinct is always to overthink this for some reason, because I want to have this super detailed plan that has lots of pages and it has every single piece mapped out for, like the next 3 years. And even though that kind of document might be impressive to your stakeholders, it's not practical. So I want to give you a list of exactly what you need instead in your implementation plan. These are the key components that you need in any solid implementation plan. First, I would say you need a crawl, walk, run framework. Now, this is just a sample page. And if I were you, I would have 3 columns on this page where I'm reminding not only myself as the leader, but also everybody on my staff that our guiding principle with AI adoption is that we're going to crawl, then walk, then run. Okay. And so what you would do is just fill in a few simple details of what each of these phases looks like for you. For example, maybe first you start with one of those use cases, or you start with just a small pilot group of people and you're going to collect some data to measure success. So that would be what crawl means to you. And once we've done that, okay, what does walk mean to you? Well, maybe we expand to some more users, or we go to multiple departments. We start introducing training and workshops and write some user guides. And then finally, you define what is run going to look like for you. So this section is mainly just to remind your stakeholders, hey, we are taking this intentionally and we're going to test before we scale up. Another section that I'd include after that is ownership. So you need to know who's going to be at the table. These core roles would apply to pretty much every AI initiative. So be thinking about who on your staff would fill these roles. So first, you need an executive sponsor. This is that senior leader who is going to connect each of your AI goals and use cases directly to the broader mission of the organization. This is the person who's making sure that your project is aligned to strategy. Then you also need some project managers or some team leads. These are the ones who are going to roll up their sleeves and actually coordinate most of the actual work. They're going to keep things moving, making sure that tasks are getting done according to the timeline. You also need tech and data people, but you need somebody who understands your data and where does it live and how clean it is. But you also need to make sure that your technology is going to play nice with any of these new tools that you're bringing in. And then lastly, I would suggest that you have an AI champion. Now, I love this role because this person is just somebody who is curious and enthusiastic about AI, and they love to pilot new things. A lot of the times, this is the person who ends up building most of the excitement internally because their colleagues see how much success they're getting. Okay? Now, if you are doing something custom, you're building an AI solution from scratch, you will need a few extra hands on board. So like if you were to partner with us, you would have some specialized roles to include things like a technical lead or a project manager and a software architect. You would need UX and UI people, of course, making sure that your solution is intuitive and easy to use. You would need the engineers that are actually building the tool and QA testers and so forth. So the bottom line is that the team at the table is going to make all the difference. And so you need to be thinking about who's going to fill those roles because there will be some effort and time required to start your AI journey. And then you need a timeline. Now, this is going to look different depending on who you are. It could be very detailed. It could be very simple. It could be a general framework. But your timeline should include the key phases and when you want to hit each milestone. When do you want to see the deadline of that milestone happen? Now, again, it doesn't matter what you call the phase, but we have found 3 essential phases that are necessary for every successful AI project. You need to first pilot. So this is going to be your starting point. You're not going full scale yet. You're just running a focused test, something that you can manage. So right here, I would list out what are the main components of my pilot phase and, the deadlines and when I hope to accomplish each one. Second is you want to improve. So now that your pilot has given you a little bit of data, you've gotten some feedback, you pause and you refine and you adapt your approach. Start fixing the bugs that maybe didn't quite hit the mark, and you start to move forward with those improvements. And again, you want to define a time window for that to start and end. And then finally, you would scale. So once you have validated and improved your idea, now you're ready to expand. You're ready to go out and integrate it fully and embed each one of those use cases into your day-to-day operations. Now, I won't go into these because they're self-explanatory, but I did want to mention a few more sections that you want to put into your implementation plan. Of course, you need a training strategy. So this could be its own section, or you could fold it into your timeline section, but you want to list what learning outcomes do I need my team to walk away with? And what is the teaching method that I'm going to deliver those? Is it a workshop? Is it an online course? Maybe I'm going to create some kind of a written set of documentation or a company wiki page or something like that. And also, of course, you need to have some sort of a cost or budget section where you're factoring in any consultants or any resources you need. All right. And once you put all that together, that is your AI transformation plan. I hope today gave you something valuable to think about. And if there's one takeaway that I want you to leave with, it's this. Don't start with tools. Start by understanding your people and your systems and your goals, because that's how you're going to create AI strategy that works. This is such an exciting time to be a leader because you're getting to lay the foundation for the next decade, really, where your organization is going to be completely reimagined by AI. If you'd like some help with this work, or you just want to learn more about the work that we do, you can visit us at valere.io or follow us on social media. Thanks for spending time with us today. We're excited to see what you build.